Okay, this is going to be kind of an interesting session. We're going to cover a lot. One of the things I want to look at is there are pockets of people in Japan that live easily to over 110 years old. And they attribute it to a few things. But one of the biggest things that they attribute it to is socialization, family, being connected. And we know from studies that people that are married live longer than people who aren't married. But in their community, they may not be married, but they're connected to their community. The other thing that they propose for this longevity is never stop working. And we have to kind of dig into that one a little bit because there's some things that are pro and there's some cons about never stopping to work. One of the cons is that they've demonstrated through studies that people that come home from work that they hate, their children tend to be bullied at school. It's an interesting study. People that come home from work from a job they like late, they may feel guilty, but there's no detrimental effects on the child's development and how they're treated in school. So that's one thing that's important. The other part about the idea of working, never stop working, is really has to do with mind exercise. It has to do with cognitive flexibility. It has to do with solving problems. It has to do with a lot of different things. So for men, we know that we're mechanically inclined and that our minds think about solving problems. In fact, our testosterone levels go up when we solve problems. We know if we've read anything from Dr. John Gray, he's the one that put out the book that's called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And it was about 25 years ago or so he put this book, maybe even 30. But a lot of the stuff in the book is still valid today because he did a good job of studying all these things. He studied people. And one of the things he talks about is that one of the ways men can help solve problems is that when their wife or girlfriend is going through a tirade of things that have gone wrong or things that you've done wrong or all these different things that come up in her world, she has kind of a two-level brain. One brain is kind of down on the reasonable level or the cognitive level. The other brain goes up to the second floor, or the other part of her brain goes to the second floor, and that's where she remembers everything that you've done wrong. So when she's in one of her, in fact, he talks about women are like the weather. It's the weather changes, and the thunderstorms and the lightning and the tornadoes and the hurricanes. And when you're in the middle of one of these hurricanes that you're getting and she's on the second floor, one of the biggest things that you can do to help solve the problem with her is when there's a pause, you ask her, tell me more. And I just love that. Because when that goes through her mind, she thinks, oh my God, look at who I've married. I'm the greatest man in the world. And it helps to bring her down out of that second floor mistake area down to a more cognitive level, down to a more thinking level, rational level. And so what you're doing is you're helping solve problems. And so that's one of the things that I believe that they're talking about in these Japanese ideas about how to live longer, is that men are solving problems. On the other hand, women are doing things too. They're doing things like their minds are never stop. In fact, when they sit down, like Dr. John Gray tells us, that their mind actually speeds up, and there's more blood flow to the hippocampus of their mind, and it starts working round the clock, round and round and round again. And part of that is that they need to understand about, well, what's going on, what do I need to cook for dinner, what are the things that how do I'm going to be going out, and all of these different things that they think about. So these things help to stimulate their mind. Now, that was one of the things about living longer. The other part about their longevity, I believe, has to do with diet. And I know I was fortunate enough years ago to be in touch with a woman. Her name was Susan Wickerman, and she was married to a man, a Hungarian. His name was St. Georgi, and he had developed an isolated vitamin P, which later on he and Linus Pauling got together and it converted into vitamin C. And one of his big callings in life was that, or high spots in his life, was that Hitler had put him on the top 100 hit list, and he was proud of that. So it was a May-December relationship, and he did eventually pass on. But she was an oncologist nurse, and she really got into this thing about diet. And one of the big things that she learned after living in Cauchy's house, who's the man that brought the macrobiotic movement over to the United States. It was in Boston, and his thing was a whole revolutionary way of eating, and it was quite restrictive, but it was super healthy. And she had, I'm not gonna exaggerate, she must have had a sheaf of testimonials from women that she had helped through cancer by just the diet change alone. And the diet is, like I said, it's pretty strict. And I was fortunate enough to be able to be with her, and when I was in Puerto Vallarta for an extended stay, and she taught me how to cook, and she taught me how to implement the macrobiotic diet. Now, I mentioned it's really a way of life. It's not just a diet, because there's so many radical changes in the way you consume food, and in the way you prepare it, and in the way you do all of these things surrounding food. And most of it's all fresh. You have to go out to the store and buy everything fresh pretty much daily. And one of the things is, in the preparation of the food, they talk about the way you're actually preparing the rice. And it is like, instead of a fierce boil, you use a rolling, gentle boil for the rice. And you keep everything on a almost on a spiritual level about how you're preparing the food, because we know food is medicine. And so with this diet, they really treat this as medicine, and it really works. Um, Based on her testimonials, I'm a true believer in it. And at that time, I had weighed almost 200 pounds, which was, I'm only 5'8", so 200 pounds is a little bit heavy. And I decided to embark on it and really make a commitment out of this. And thank God she had the time and the patience to work with me and show me how to really prepare my food. And one of the big things with the diet is that when you're getting everything ready, once you're ready to sit down with your with your little bowl of food, everything in the kitchen is all cleaned up, so you don't have to worry about that. So you do sit down, and it's like I said, it's almost a spiritual thing. You kind of are blessing your body with this nutrients. And one of the things that you do is you do use chopsticks, so you're going to be taking smaller bites. But the big thing is that you chew your food 50 times. Now, I know that seems really way out there, but you have no idea of the advantages of doing that. First of all, when you swallow the food, sorry about that, I forgot to turn off my phone. I got to remember to do that. Anyway, one of the things that you do when you do chew your food 50 times, and it does seem awful radical, is that you taste all of the flavors of the food itself. Your taste buds become sharpened, they become acute, they become very aware of what you're eating. And then when you do swallow it, it's like liquid, and that helps your digestive system. They say that a good functioning system, that you would go to the bathroom shortly after you would have a major meal within an hour or so, like a baby does. And so you're flushing out a lot of those toxins and things that you would have been carrying around with you. The other thing that the diet prescribes, or the diet recommends, is that you don't use any extremes. You don't use dairy. There's no white in it. It's brown rice. The brown rice and the aduki beans make up the protein. Fresh vegetables, like I mentioned. You don't drink anything when you're eating. You wait till a while afterwards, and you wait for at least an hour before you have any fruit after you've eaten your meal. And so all of these things contribute to not only your health, but your longevity, and also it helps for your digestive system. There's a myriad of things that this diet does to help you with everything in your world. And like I say, it's a change of life. It'll take you a good 25, 35 minutes to eat a meal. And I'm talking about a small meal, no bigger than the size of your fist, because that's all the bigger that your stomach is. Whatever size is your fist, that's how big your stomach is. So these are things that you keep in mind. So we're going to stop there for right now, and then I'm going to continue on in my next presentation about the longevity and about what we can do to live a very prosperous, joyous, happy, and free life. And I want to thank you again. And if you have any questions, you can go to my website, A1 Counseling Center, and you can ask me questions, and I will answer them for you. Thank you very much.